This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This table is really tilted.
Excuse me? Am I gonna get a chance to speak?
Maybe I should take that back.
Denied. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Take a giant step for mankind.
Welcome to the Tilted Table with your hosts, Sean and Joe.
I'll throw this piece of shit away.
Good memories, man.
Right?
Yeah, good memories.
Folks, welcome to the Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I am Sean Landon Clark.
And I am the other half of this magic carpet ride, Joey Joe, the Fracky Mac.
And we are back for another episode. Boy, we just keep cranking these bad boys out.
It's a lot of fun, man.
Even if YouTube bans us, we could just keep doing it over and over.
See, I'm going to wear that strike like a badge of honor.
Yeah, you should. You should.
I'm going to list it on my resume under skills and accomplishments.
That's right. And you can still listen to episode 16 on many platforms like Spotify and Apple and other locations. If you just take a quick look, you'll find us.
Yep. Like, follow, ring the bell, all the things.
Right. And we're at Tilted Table 1 on all major social media. That's Tilted. Is it Tilted? I don't even know my own tag. So it's the Tilted Table 1. Number 1, right? So I never say those things.
We should.
We don't.
Well, there you go. We just did it. We'll make it a part of the routine.
Yeah, you have to fall into a new routine.
Well, I am excited about the topic that you came up for tonight.
Yeah, we're going to talk about discontinued food items that we grew up on through the 80s and to the 90s. And I think we're going to run the entire gambit where, it could be everything from fast food to snack food to, other any
beverages.
product. Yeah, beverages. And I think that we're going to definitely surprise each other because neither one of us said what we have on our list. We jotted it down. So that should be another cool element of the show is we're going to surprise each other. I do not know what Joe has on his list. He does not know what I have on mine. So I want to start with you, Joe.
So my mom was, trying to be quasi-healthy back through the 80s, early 90s. And there was a bacon substitute product that she would make called Sizzlean.
Yes, I remember Sizzlean.
Yes. And it was sold all the way up into 2005.
Oh, wow.
And they advertised that this, I'm using my Dr. Evil quote fingers here, this bacon substitute was 50% leaner than regular bacon. Okay. And they ultimately had to end up taking it off the market because it was still 37% fat by weight. So Sizzlean got discontinued for misadvertising itself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember the slogan for that. It was "Don't sizzle fat, sizzle lean."
How in the world do you remember that?
I have no clue how I remember that. I just remember the commercials.
Let's say that's a jingle that keeps on winning.
So did you eat this stuff?
We did for a while. It was all right. It wasn't bad. It looked weird. Like once you would cook it, it looked kind of like a strip of leather versus a piece of bacon. I
never had Sizzlean. I remember seeing the commercials and I thought it looked weird just even in the commercials. So, yeah, I didn't know what it was. I think in my mind as a kid, it fell into the same categories like Velveeta. It's not really cheese. Right. And when you melt it, it doesn't act like cheese. This wasn't on my list, but another product that my mom bought was a butter substitute, and it was called Heartbeat. It was like half the fat, 5 times the cholesterol. Oh, God. And that one got ripped off the market in like 24 months or something. But it had a good name, right? Heartbeat. You'd think, like, hey, I'm trying to be healthy. So did you like Sizzlean? Was it good? I don't miss it. Oh my God! Right. All right. So I got to bring you back with the sizzle, or hit you with the Sizzlean. I'm excited to hear something that's on your list. So the first thing I'm going to talk about on my list, and I would not be surprised if you have this on your list, is the famous Jolt Cola. Oh man, that powered me through college. So many great memories of Jolt Cola. You know what's funny? I actually Googled this about 2 weeks ago to see if they still made it. Because it wasn't that long ago. I want to say I found it at Bevmo. Oh, really? In the back where they have like the weird root beers and all that. Yeah. Like bubblegum cola and whatnot. They had it.
Man, I love Jolt Cola. I'd take some No-Dos and drink a couple of those and get to my homework. And yeah, that's how I got through college.
See, I don't remember it being around past the 90s. I never saw it. My mother would never let me have that stuff because it was during that time frame when Coca-Cola and Pepsi were starting to make the sugar-free, the diets, and the caffeine-frees, and that became all the kind of the craze. Don't drink regular Coca-Cola or Pepsi, it's too much sugar and caffeine. And Jolt Cola came out, and they decided to go the opposite direction because their tagline was twice the caffeine, twice the sugar. And it was popular when I was a kid. All the kids wanted it. My mother was like, nope. And I don't think I ever had Jolt Cola.
What? You got robbed.
I feel like I must have at some point because I know I wanted it. So I must have had it at some point. I just don't recall a specific time when I finally got my hands on one and drank that stuff. From your memory, what did it taste like? Was it good?
It was great. It reminded me of RC Cola.
Okay.
And I'm not a big soda person, but if you were to say you're going to drink a, Pepsi, Coke, whatever, RC would have to be my favorite. So it was a ultra caffeinated RC Cola.
I wonder if it's like really technically the first energy drink, because pretty much energy drinks are, despite the fact that they market themselves as being an energy drink and not a soda, they have a ton of sugar. And again, they have like a shit ton of caffeine. So I wonder if Jolt really technically is the first energy drink.
There was a couple around that era or age that came out. Like Guarana was the main caffeine side product that was in a lot of them. It was certainly probably the most famous of them.
Okay.
But I would consider myself a connoisseur of caffeinated products, and that's one of the early ones.
Cool. Well, shoot me with another one.
I was just saying, I do have a soda that was on my list when Crystal Pepsi first came out.
Yes, Crystal Pepsi.
I thought that was the coolest thing. The advertising campaign was great. I mean, some people that might be listening to this don't know what that is. It was a clear Pepsi, and the bottles were clear. The 2-liter bottles were clear, and that was a huge novelty.
It was
in early 90s. And I guess the main thing about Crystal Pepsi, it was caffeine free. And I didn't know that right when it came out, but it was here and it was gone. So that's another one. A couple months ago, I jumped on eBay and I found somebody that had a 3-pack of unopened 2-liter Crystal Pepsis. Part of me wanted to get it just for nostalgia and to have one on the shelf. I'm like, that's just awful.
Yeah, I have that on my list as well. And I had to look it up because I wanted to call it Pepsi Clear. And I feel like there were, I don't know if Coca-Cola had a clear, but I don't
remember. They had a Coke 2, the Roman numeral 2, Coke 2.
Oh, did they? I don't remember that.
That was the caffeine-free diet Coke.
Oh, okay.
Coke 2.
Okay, yeah. When Pepsi or Crystal Pepsi came out, I do recall buying it. I was fascinated with it because it did taste just like cola. It just looked like a seltzer, right? But people did complain that it didn't taste like Pepsi. It was a little off. And I don't know how to make soda, so I don't know if it's a caramel, whatever the coloring is, if that is part of the flavoring. And by removing that, they have to either figure out a way to, mimic it and not add that stuff in there. But it seemed like it was all the rage.
It was like 2 degrees off of what Pepsi should taste like.
And I think it was during that time when New York Seltzer got real popular. I don't know if you remember
New York Seltzer. I remember that. Yeah. You had the little short squatty bottles.
Yeah. And I think that was part of that. Everybody, that seemed to be, I don't know if it was considered like a healthier option. You could drink this seltzer water. It was flavored. And we have all that stuff now. It's like, I think it's still super popular, but I think New York Seltzer was the first like real popular kind of flavored seltzer, and it wasn't soda, so it didn't have all the sugar in it. And I think Crystal Pepsi wanted to jump on that bandwagon a bit. And I know there were other clear sodas that were cola. I know there was more than just Crystal Pepsi, but maybe I'm wrong.
Rawls, that short blue glass bottle.
Maybe, yeah.
That one was clear.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, you can look it up on the internet. We only have the friggin', New Age Bible in front of us. We can find out all the answers to everything.
Yeah. And one of the, soda and burgers kind of go together. And one of the ones that popped on my list is the McDonald's McDLT.
That is on my list as well. Go ahead. That was an interesting concept.
Dennis Leary immortalized the McDLT in his song. That was about rolling down the highway in a pink Cadillac, woofing a McDLT and throwing the styrofoam container out the window.
Yeah, that was the big controversy, was the styrofoam container.
And when it came out, it was such a novel idea. Like, let's make a burger to go, and we'll just keep one half on one side of the styrofoam, the other half on the other to lock in the freshness.
Well, I think the tagline was "keeps the hot side hot and the cold side cold." And the idea was it was, a styrofoam container that was good. You laid it out flat. You put the lettuce and tomato bun side, and then you had the burger side. And then, of course, it had a lid on it. You pop the lid off, and you just fold it over whenever you're ready to eat it, and you get the hot burger and the fresh lettuce and tomato that's still cold. And it got a lot of heat because it was just styrofoam. It was a big, landfill nightmare. Like, what a waste. Like, why would they do this? It lasted for about maybe a year, 2 years?
Maybe. It was here and gone.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's not perpetual like the McRib.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't come back every year. Well, it reminds me of the Shamrock Shake, which they don't make anymore, I don't think, right? It was every St. Patrick's Day where they had the mint-flavored shake.
Right.
And that was around for my entire childhood, and they just stopped doing it. I don't know when, but probably in the 90s maybe.
They found out what the food dye was radioactive or something.
Well, it's not like McDonald's is serving up good food to begin with. All of a sudden, they're starting to care about what's inside of a Shamrock Shake. Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, I'll bust you one from McDonald's too. I've brought this up to a bunch of people in the past, and nobody remembers this. And it may have been test market, but I have seen YouTube videos where they talk about it. So I know it wasn't just like a California thing. Okay. Is a McDonald's pizza.
Yes, I remember that was a test market deal, and it was a huge flop.
Yeah, it totally bombed, and I had one. We went out of our way. I could tell you the year. It's probably 1991. So I was with my friend Rob, and he had a car. So it had to have been my junior or senior year of high school, because that's when Rob got a car. And it was a Friday night, and we were all jazzed out of our minds about, like, let's go try a McDonald's pizza. And we ordered one, or maybe two. They weren't particularly big. They were slightly larger than like a personal pizza.
Right.
And it was trash.
And didn't it take, like, you'd order it and it took forever to make?
I think it took about 20 minutes. So they were making, I'm assuming, I don't know what fucking McDonald's, they were making them fresh, whatever the fuck that means, But it was terrible. And, when as a 16, 17-year-old teenager, not too much fast food tasted terrible to me. That did. I remember thinking, this is disgusting. Like, who would eat this shit?
Oh, man. I did see a YouTube documentary on the rapid rise and fall of the McDonald's pizza. Yeah. And that was the consensus. It was garbage. Here's another one. So when I was a kid, I was hugely allergic to milk. So I could have like small amounts of milk, like in your cereal or whatever, but I could never have a glass of milk.
Okay.
And so the doctor told my mom that I needed to drink Mocha Mix.
Mocha Mix.
It's still around, but in a much different iteration. Now it's like a coffee creamer.
Okay.
But back then it was actually kind of like that Heartbeat butter, 4 times the cholesterol. It was the milk substitute. I don't know what it was in it, but that's one that is gone off the shelves these days. Mocha Mix.
I do remember that, and I remember having some of that, and remember not liking it. But I never really cared for milk to begin with, so maybe I'm the wrong person to.
I don't even remember what it was made out of. It just tasted weird.
Yeah, it's strange when they make stuff like that. There are people that they do like the focus test groups and things like that. Like, how did that even get through? It's kind
of like that watery stuff off the top of a cottage cheese mixed with some gasoline, like something like that.
Yeah, I don't even, again, it's just the whole thing about some of these products that get put out taste horrible. And it's like, who said that this was good? Like, was it some like VP at the top of the company that just, pushed it?
Right.
Did their son make it and they just like, have to put it out there? I don't know. I don't even know. It's like, it's surprising to me when you eat some of this stuff or you drink some of this stuff and it's just like, this is so bad. How did they get this out? It had to be a favor to somebody's child.
Yeah, there was no test kitchen or focus group or anything like that. I mean, I guess there's the quote test market. Like, let's see what kind of suckers are going to order this garbage.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I'm going to throw one at you that I'm not sure you're going to know, but I'm going to see if you recognize this. The Taco Bell Beefer.
I was a huge Taco Bell connoisseur, but no, I'm pulling a blank on this. The Big Beefer?
The Bell Beefer.
Bell Beefer?
Yes, it was the hamburger that they had created, and it was essentially a taco.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this.
In a burger form. Yeah.
A taco in a burger form.
Yeah, so we know Taco Bell doesn't actually have like new ingredients. They just continue to shove one thing into another and wrap it in a tortilla. Mm-hmm. That to me is Taco Bell. Anytime they've ever created anything, it seems like they're just taking existing products on their menu and shoving them into each other.
That's a fair statement.
Right? Like, so have you ever had like the double-decker taco, which is another...
I like those. Yeah,
that's one of the most ingenious ideas, and I don't think that they make those anymore either. But a double decker was this, regular shelled taco, but they would take a tortilla with refried beans and they would wrap it around the outside, and that was absolutely
delightful.
To me ingenious and delicious. And I don't think they make it anymore. But the Bell Beefer was, again, it's just taking the Taco Bell taco meat, if that is meat.
That's not. It's textured vegetable protein, aka TVP.
Okay, I did not know this. It's vegetable protein. That means it's good for you, right?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Might grow a third eyeball, but okay.
Yeah, they would just make a burger out of it, and it was hot for like maybe a couple years. But it might have been. I'd have to look it up. It may be like a really early product, because I remember this thing when I was probably like in the 3rd, 4th grade.
Okay.
So it would have been 83, 84. And I don't know how long it lasted. It disappeared at some point.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, the Taco Bell Bell Beefer. And I'm not going to lie, it was flippin' delicious.
So I think what you really mean to say is Yo quiero Taco Bell?
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Mm-hmm. I miss those commercials. Those are great.
Yeah, but every commercial has a lifespan. They can only go for so long, and then they gotta
bring back Spuds McKenzie.
Spuds. Oh my God, the Budweiser dog mascot. That's right. He was popular for years.
Oh yeah. I mean, he had his own merch.
Oh yeah.
And the commercials. He had his own calendars.
Yeah, I remember when I was in the 7th or 8th grade, people would buy the Spud McKenzie shirts. They were super popular, but they all said Bud Light on them. So the school wouldn't allow you to wear them because it was advertising, alcohol. So all these kids would get, they would buy the shirts and they would cut out little iron-on like patches, and they would iron on a patch over the Bud Light. So everybody had these Spud McKenzie shirts with these big black bars, various parts of the shirt where they had to cover the name.
Remember iron-on patches? Are those a thing?
Yeah, no, I mean they have them. Of course, I mean you can go buy them right now. If you got holes in your pants, you can go you turn your pants inside out and just iron on the patch to to keep them from wearing down even more.
Huh.
And if you're really really poor, you did it on the outside, and everybody knew that your family couldn't afford to buy you new clothes.
Right.
Embarrassing. That's why you got your ass kicked in gym.
Iron-on patches. Oh, here's a good one. Around that period of time, they were coming up with lots of different snackables and lunchables and whatnot. Do you remember Kudos granola bars?
Yeah, Kudos. Man, those were good.
They were good.
Yeah, they were delicious.
I'd go to the store and I'd get a box, like fully meaning for it to last a week or two, and I'd mow through half the box in one sitting. I thought those were delightful.
Yeah, they were great. I think they were marketed as being healthy. I don't know if they really were.
They were not.
Okay.
Hence the reason they are gone off the shelf. They were not. It was basically like a Snickers bar wrapped in granola.
Okay. Yeah.
But marketed as like a super green, eco-friendly health food type of deal, which it wasn't.
Yeah, and they were one of the first ones to do that. Because it was what in the 80s into the 90s?
Yeah, into the early 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember, because granola, because they had like Nature Valley, all these granola bars. And even back then, those were considered really, really healthy, even though we know now that most granola bars aren't particularly good for you. And Kudos came out with, well, we're a healthy bar and we taste 10 times better than, your regular standard granola bar, and they did,
but 50 times the fat.
Yeah. And well, I mean, I don't know, was this before they had to list the ingredients?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't know when they instituted that, where you had to really clearly with that basic grid that we see on the food product that tells you all the sodium and fat and everything.
Road tar.
Yeah. So I'm sure part of that requirement probably came from these kinds of products, So again, like going back to like Sizzlean, right? It's like, this is supposed to be, healthy for you, and find out that it's really not.
I think a better word is toxic.
Yeah. Can't imagine they get away with this stuff. They did.
gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Leave a like on the video. I know you're enjoying this. Can you shut up?
The internet's answer to a question that was never asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
You know, one of the products that I really liked a lot, and I remember being really upset when they got rid of them, were the Doritos 3Ds.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Yeah, and so these.
Why did they get rid of them?
I don't know. I'm assuming they just didn't sell well. But they were basically a Dorito. So you got the triangle Dorito, but they were puffed out. So they
blew air inside of them or something.
Yeah, so they kind of blew up.
It was like a wonton version of a Dorito.
Yeah, and I loved them, and I thought at least from my perspective, they were kind of lighter. At least they tasted that way, and it's just like it wasn't like the heaviness of a corn chip, which probably means I'm getting half the corn chip, but still paying the same price. Right. But those were delicious. But there's a lot of Doritos that I like that they got rid of. Some of them they've brought back. Do
you have a go-to?
Say what?
Do you have a go-to Dorito?
Yeah, my go-to is the salsa verde.
Ooh,
the green bag. I love those, and they still have those. But in the 90s, they came out with white cheddar, and it was a black bag, and it was delicious. And I was just like, this is the best Dorito ever. And they discontinued them. But I was in the store the other day, and I saw that they brought them back, but they're being packaged differently. It's like the Doritos has a line of I don't know, all natural. It's supposed to be. They make
Is that a thing? All natural Doritos?
Well, it's like I don't want to use all natural. I can't remember the wording, but it's like like organic or whatever.
Like a vegan Dorito.
Like I said, like organic or like a higher quality, and it was white cheddar, and I'm like, shit. I go, they're back, and they've probably been back for a long time. I don't eat food like that, so it's out of my wheelhouse. I wouldn't know necessarily what flavors are out and here today, gone tomorrow, kind of thing. So they could have been back for a long time. Maybe they never really went away. I just remember them being in the store, and I was probably, I don't know, maybe 20, 21, and I would just it was my go-to. And then they just disappeared, and I was just like, son of a bitch, they discontinued these things.
I was all about the Cool Ranch Doritos.
Yeah.
And it's one of those and I'm not a chip junk food person at all, nor have ever really been, but it's one of those things like if one is good, 10 is better.
Of course. And
then you get that stuff all over your fingers, and you're like, well, I guess we're just going to keep on eating this bag. And then you end up like licking that stuff off your fingers.
Oh God, yeah.
That's delightful.
So do you have another one? I got one if you don't.
So, in the whole I don't eat like that, even as a kid, I was not a candy person. But the one candy that I thought, that's kind of innovative was the Whistle Pop.
The Whistle Pop. Oh my, I never had those. I remember them though.
So it was basically like a sucker with a built-in whistle inside of it. And you would I don't know if people choked on them, or I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, that was only around like 70s to the early 90s, and then they took them off the shelf and discontinued them.
Maybe it was a victim of the Pop Rocks, which seemed to get a lot of flack. I don't think anybody actually died from Pop Rocks, but there were
good. We should have listed that on our urban legends.
Right? Yeah,
Pop Rocks and soda.
Yeah, if you drink Pop Rocks and soda, it would like dissolve your face
or blow up your stomach,
right? Or some.
It's basically like Mentos and Coke, like in a 2-liter bottle.
Right.
It's a pseudo jet engine.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that when I was a kid, there were incidents where people would eat Pop Rocks, and they would, you put these things in your mouth and they just start firing off, and people were, they would shoot to the back of your throat. No one choked to death, but there were people, I think, that got I don't know if they got sick or whatever. I mean, having things shoot into the back of your throat and gag and choke and
sounds like a good time.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Right. Pop Rocks. I haven't even thought of that in 30 years.
Yeah, I know they still sell them because they retooled them so they weren't as violent when they popped. So I don't think obviously they're not the same. And I know after they retooled them, they lost popularity. But the popularity loss might have been through all those stories, and people were getting worried, like, I'm not going to eat that stuff. It's a candy. You can get the same kind of, candy and sugar from a million different places. Why do you want to pour this stuff in your mouth that's going to start shooting off everywhere?
Oh, well, speaking of like that kind of stuff, as a kid, the one thing I did like was Nerds.
Yeah, Nerds are great, and they're still made. I think, right?
I have no clue.
Yeah, I swear I think I've seen them in a liquor store. Those are cool because, yeah, you got basically 2 flavors in one. They had, it was a basic, I don't know how to describe the texture.
Yeah, it's kind of
like they're like tiny little pebbles.
It's kind of like the little pebbles rocks at the bottom of a goldfish tank.
Right, yeah. And so you would buy the pack and it would be, the box would be split in 2. One side could be like strawberry and the other side would be blueberry. And they had little sliders so you could slide open one side, chug them down and then slide over the other one. Yeah, Nerds are great. I think they're still made.
Do they have any nutritional value?
No, none of this has nutritional value. None of it does.
0.
Kind of brings me up to a one that I have on my list, that infamous candy called candy cigarettes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, until you started smoking at 16 for reals.
Well, I mean, growing up, one of my grandmas chain smoked Virginia Slims, and she had that, I don't know what you call it, the little adapter that you put on the end of the cigarette. So
yeah, it's a filter, yeah.
So like ladies' fingers wouldn't get discolored by the nicotine.
Yeah, very popular throughout like the 30s, 40s, 50s, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, grandma was so hardcore, she actually smoked in the shower. Which I think that's some next level stuff right there.
Yeah, if you smoke in the shower, you got my respect. You got my respect for sure.
But then when they had like candy cigarettes, 70s, 80s, I could go into like a Denny's or Perco's or whatever, and they'd have a cigarette dispenser. And if my dad or one of his buddies would say like, "Hey, go grab me a pack of cigarettes," at 8 years old, that was easy. That was 20 feet away and $1.
Yeah, a vending machine of cigarettes. Yeah, candy cigarettes were kind of a trip because they weren't full-size packs, so they were just slightly smaller than an actual cigarette pack. And you got like, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 candy sticks, which were just like this white, chalky. It was disgusting candy. It wasn't, well, I'm going to say it was disgusting.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, but it wasn't particularly good. And they painted the tips red or pink, and they had holes through them, through the center. And you would pull it out and you would blow, and a little bit of powder would fly out like smoke.
Yeah.
And then right, like you're totally indoctrinating children into smoking at some point in their life.
They know at 8, 9 years old, we knew exactly what a pack of Newports was.
Yeah, and it was funny because I remember buying candy cigarettes and not thinking, I knew I wasn't going to smoke cigarettes. Like I didn't want to smoke a cigarette, but it seemed somewhat cool to have like again a pack of thing you have and you pull them out in your mouth. Like I used to make a joke that there was nothing cooler than seeing some 18, 19-year-old, kid with a cigarette dangling off his mouth. That looks super cool, right? So I know that part of this was, indoctrinating kids, and it was the same thing. You'd have these candy cigarettes, and I would mimic that. I'd stand, lean up against the pole at my elementary school. And
for sure.
Dangle that thing off my mouth, act like I was, blow the.
You're like the Marlboro Man or something.
Yeah, right. The one puff and blow out the, the powder, and like, yeah, look at me, I'm cool. But what was interesting, and I remember this specifically, they were very closely designed to real cigarettes. So, like, I used to buy the Pall Mall pack, which is a knockoff of the Pall Mall, the actual cigarette, and the font and the pictures were nearly identical. So it was clearly a move to get kids to start at least thinking about it, and it seems safe, I guess. Whatever, it's candy, right? It's not a big deal. But candy cigarettes, they yanked that shit off the market. I don't know. Somebody woke up one morning and like, what the fuck are we doing?
Why are we giving? It's kind of like having a bike with training wheels, right?
There was some parent out there that finally said, what the fuck is this? Is not okay. Why is my kid buying a pack of cigarettes, standing around my house, acting like he's smoking? Like, it's like, or then like every other parent's like, wait, hold up. You're fucking right about that. What the hell's going on over here? And like the people that made it, I'm sure are going like, what? What's the problem? It's just candy.
It's kid's first ashtray.
Right?
Oh man, that's crazy. I guess in that same sort of candy vein, I don't know if they still do this anymore, but we in one of previous episode we were talking about collecting and cards and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Do they even put gum in card packs these days?
Baseball cards?
Or what? Yeah, whatever type of cards.
Oh yeah, again, there's so many other cards outside of just baseball. Honestly, I don't know. I haven't bought a pack of cards in years. I would assume that they don't, and I'll tell you why. I think because it's such a collectible market that we knew that the gum, whatever card it was, leaning against in the pack, would destroy the card. And I remember when I was a teenager and we would buy, Tops, and, you're looking for the Mark McGuire rookie or the Jose Canseco rookie, and you'd find it, and it was at the bottom of the pack, and there's a big stain on the back, and it's like, fuck, it just ruined the card, and that's worthless. So I would assume because it's such a collectible market these days, they probably don't. And that gum, what was that? Because it wasn't gum.
I don't know, man. It was like, they ran a 2x4 through a shredder or something and then packed it with resin and threw it in there.
Yeah, I mean, that gum was unedible. Like, even if
you break a tooth.
Yeah, like, so if you were able to break it up with your mouth without losing half your teeth, the flavor, which was disgusting, only lasted about, 5 seconds. It was done.
If that.
So I would imagine they don't have them anymore just because, it's a collectible, so they don't want to destroy the cards inside the pack. And I don't think most people who buy cards want a piece of shitty gum destroying what could potentially be a high-priced card. It's too classy now. Like cards are too classy. You can't have gum in a pack. What the hell's that?
Yeah, it's an adult sport now.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of gum, I never have chewed gum, but what about, remember Juicy Fruit? Like that striped gum?
Oh, because no, you're thinking of two different things. You're thinking of Fruit Stripe.
Yes.
Fruit Stripe with the giraffe on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's discontinued. I feel like they still sell it.
Okay.
But that gum was notorious for lasting about 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Yeah, that was a cheap gum. There was good gum, and then there was cheap gum. That was the cheap gum. Now, Juicy Fruit was the yellow pack. It was the sister.
That's right.
Sister brand.
The Wrigley deal.
Yeah, it was the sister brand of what was the red one? They had a cinnamon.
Big Red.
Big Red. Juicy Fruit. And
there's
the green one. What was the green one? Is that just straight Wrigley's?
Yeah, it was like wintergreen.
Yeah, some kind of wintergreen. It wasn't peppermint.
No.
Yeah, so there was that whole line.
They had made up their own peppermint type name because it wasn't a real thing.
Yeah, and those I think were considered the kind of the adult gum. It was like the kids' gum was like Fruit Stripe, Big League Chew. That's another tobacco product that I don't know if they sell it anymore.
I think they do. I saw that at the liquor store a couple of weeks ago.
So they get rid of candy cigarettes, but Big League Chew is okay. And for the people that don't know what Big League Chew is, it's shredded bubble gum in a pouch to mimic like chewing tobacco. And on the front was a baseball player, and baseball players were notorious for chewing tobacco is a big thing in baseball.
All right.
So yeah, if you bought that, now you were leaning up against the pole at your elementary school, taking a big chaw in your gums.
Oh, it's so gross, man. And then as a kid, you don't know any better, and so the gum would lose its flavor, and so it wasn't like you spit it out or put it in the trash. You would just grab more out of that pouch, and soon enough, you'd have like a baseball-sized thing inside of your cheek.
Right, and then people would try to blow like the largest bubble on the planet. Yeah, you have half a pound of gum in your mouth.
So gross. So gross.
I'll throw another one at you. This one was super, super popular, and it's gone, but it still has a long-lasting legacy, which is Tab.
Oh, the soda.
Yeah. And I think it was marketed as, I'm not going to say it was the first, but really I think it marketed as like the first completely sugar-free, caffeine-free soda. And during the 80s, that health-conscious era of the 80s where everybody was so concerned about their weight.
NutraSweet.
Yeah. I don't know why they took it off the market other than I know that the original...
Gave you cancer.
Yeah. It's like the original artificial sweeteners were notorious cancer, carcinogenics, right? Yeah. So Tab was long gone, and I hadn't thought about Tab in decades.
I think I remember what it was. I think I had it once, but caffeine-free diet soda was never in our house.
Well, I didn't get. Again, I never had too many options because my parents would never buy sugared anything, sugared cereals, sodas that were just pretty much off the shelf. We're not gonna allow that in our house. But my mother would allow diet sodas, and my dad would buy Tab. And so I had it, quite often. Now, I say it was really good, but it's also coming from somebody that didn't drink a lot of soda as a kid, so it was my only reference point. It was sweet, and it seemed to taste good. But I'm sure today if I had one, I'd be like, oh, God.
It's kind of like speaking of drinks, like remember Shasta Cola?
Yeah, Shasta was super popular. I think it's still around. I'm assuming it's still around.
I haven't seen it in decades, but that was basically poor man soda.
Yeah, that was the cheap soda. Yeah, you had a party at your house, like a birthday party when you were a kid, and they busted out Shasta. Everyone looked at you like, poor son, ain't got no money.
Yep, the family's going through hard times right now.
Yeah, I always liked Shasta. I thought it was a good soda.
I like creamsicle.
Right, yeah. But also people knocked on RC Cola all the time, and I liked RC Cola.
Ooh, there's one.
Yeah.
So I do like Sprite. But then there is the ugly redheaded stepchild that was also known as Slice.
I remember Slice.
And
I remember Slice.
It was like a watered down, like, you know, when you leave ice in a Sprite for way too long. That's basically what Slice was.
Yeah. That it had a moment. People seemed to like it.
It had a hot moment.
Yeah, and then it was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you could go all day long with probably with sodas like that because it was the same run that, you know, these companies would make. They would have, like, if 7-Up was popular, we have to, you know, try to, you know, figure our version of that and put something out. And it's kind of strange because I have a lot of stock in Coca-Cola, and so they send me these quarterly reports, and they talk about all the different, you know, brands that are coming out, stuff that's only overseas. And so for the last maybe 15 or 20 years, I've been exposed to, you know, this product that we're releasing in Canada only. And it's some kind of, you know, whatever's popular in Canada, they're trying to figure out a way to, you know, capitalize on it. And and a lot of this stuff I've never even heard of. When I had stock, I don't have stock in Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch. I don't have any more. But when they did, they would put out their quarterly reports, and they would talk specifically about, like, new brands that are coming out and ones that they're getting rid of, and explain why. You know, like, this one isn't selling, or whatever the reason was. And there was a Bud Light had Hefeweizen. So I think it was called Bud Light Gold or something like that.
Okay.
And I love this beer, and I don't like Bud Light, but this was basically a light Hefeweizen. If you don't know what Hefeweizen,
yeah.
Hefeweizen, it had a moment, I would say probably 15 years ago, 20 years ago, where, like, Pyramid and all these different companies were coming out with Hefeweizens, and it's basically unfiltered beer. So it's kind of cloudy. It's got a really full-bodied, really nice flavor. It's like drinking a loaf of bread. It's probably not good for you.
That's a fact.
Right? So
probably gave you some kidney issues.
Oh, it was called Golden Wheat. That's what it was called, Golden Wheat. And I got the quarterly report, and they're like, well, we're discontinuing this. And I'm like, son of a bitch. I actually like this beer. And at the same time, Budweiser, when they released Golden Wheat, they had released Bud Light Platinum. Bud Light Platinum was just a high alcohol beer. It was like 6.5%. I don't know what they thought they were doing with this. It was just high octane, and it's disgusting. And anybody that wants a high octane beer will probably buy like a malt liquor before they buy Bud Light Platinum. And they get rid of Golden Wheat, but Platinum's still on the fucking shelf, and I can't figure out how that is selling more than the Golden Wheat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's meetings for things like that.
Right. It's way beyond our pay grade. You know, we're not the CEO of shit.
That's a fact.
We're not the director of marketing and product placement or whatever the hell they go over there. Product development.
Well, I think control I have is over anything is the chair that I'm sitting in right now.
Yeah.
That was fun, man. I loved the walk down memory lane because when you first brought up the idea, I was like, oh, yeah. And I just mentally started rattling off things in my head that, you know, like that heartbeat butter that I'm sure someone must have killed over dead after using it for 90 days.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like the whole thing with like margarine. You know, it's like they have those tests where even cockroaches won't touch margarine. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, that's good because that means I can have it out and I don't have to worry about bugs getting into it.
Nope. Keep it at room temp.
Room temp. It doesn't melt ever.
So gross.
Even in 100-degree heat, that shit won't melt. What's wrong with that stuff?
I have an important announcement for you, so stay tuned.
Yo, that's some next level shit, bruh.
So you got me. Big deal.
The internet's answer to a question no one asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
And that's another episode of the Tilted Table in the bag. The internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I'm Sean Landon Clark.
And I am Joey Joe.
The Fracky Mac.
Yes.
The Fracky Mac.
In the house. Yeah, we forgot to talk about Tang.
Yeah, we didn't
but
talk
we can
about
do that. We can center an entire episode around Tang.
We got plenty to talk about if we want to get more into discontinued products. Now it's time to discontinue this episode of the Tilted Table.
1, 2, 3.